So you've been concerned about them discovering that fossil of a dog-sized scorpion the other day.
What?
They found a prehistoric dog-sized scorpion skeleton the other day.
I don't like any of that. I don't like any of those words, especially when they're arranged in that order.
It's midnight, and you're listening to the Ghost Story Guys.
Welcome to the Ghost Story Guys. I'm Brennan Storr.
I'm Paul Bestall.
And this is the show where we talk about spooks, specters, and all the other things watching us from the shadows beyond the campfire. Some conversations only make sense after the sun has set, and this is most definitely one. Thanks for tuning in. This is episode number 243, and we're coming to you from that tiny mountain cabin you dream about, but can never quite reach. Paul Bestall, my friend, you have taken a break from the World Cup to join us here on the Ghost Story Guys. How is life for you, my friend?
I've no idea. I've just been watching football.
And I told you off air, I regret not taking your advice on one of the matches. Had I made the bet you advised in a timely fashion, I would in fact be doing fairly well right now. So I will be listening to Mr. Paul Bestall from here on out.
It's been hard going, I have to say. I was questioning my life when I suddenly realised that 2:30, I was like, why am I watching Iran versus New Zealand? What is happening here?
It's the same reason we climb Everest, because it's there.
I've seen too many sunrises this week. which at 53, I didn't expect I'd be reliving the 90s, but in a very different way. Now I'm just high on football.
On this episode, we are here not, sadly, to talk about World Cup victories, although it will come up again. That's just going to happen. We are instead here to tell spooky stories. And on this episode, we are delighted to be sharing a selection from our good friend Ruth Roper Wylde's These Haunted Times series. On this episode, we're going to be featuring stories from These Haunted Times Volume 6. When I was assembling these, Paul, I kept thinking, I'm sure we've read these on the show before. And then I realized, no, it's because I recorded the audiobook, so they're all deeply familiar to me.
Silly chuff.
Telling you. So we're very, very excited to be telling Ruth stories on this show. Before we do that, I want to quickly tell you a story of synchronicity here in Toronto. So on Sunday, I went to go see Steven Spielberg's new film Disclosure Day, which I'm sure we'll talk about later in the show.
Oh, I've not heard about that.
I know. I thought I should slow roll it to you. You know, I'll explain more later.
Okay.
But so I saw a 70mm screening downtown. And then later that evening, about 10 o'clock-ish, I decided I really wanted a joint. But I did not have any to hand, and there was a 24-hour dispensary a few blocks to the west of me. So I went for a long walk, and on my way, I passed this bar, and I thought, I feel like I want to go in there. I thought, okay, well, I'll go get my joint. So I did, went, smoked that. And then by the time I got back to the bar, I was just about finished. So I disposed of the remainder, went into the bar. And there was only a handful of people in there. Most of them were sitting at the bar itself. And one of them, the fellow next to me, was talking to two other people about movies and video games. So I was reading, and I heard him say something to the effect of Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren weren't in any more Universal Soldier films after part 1. And I, being the autist I am, went internally, that is incorrect. So I waited until I thought, should I say something? Is that weird? It's weird. He's talking about, you know what? I'll wait. So eventually his companions left, and I just leaned over very quietly and said, Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme are in Regeneration and Day of Reckoning. And he kind of looked at me. And anyways, we closed that bar talking about movies. Me and this guy, Eric. And then we ran into another one of his friends who invited us to a second bar, which we then closed talking about movies. And it turns out we were both at the same screening of Disclosure Day that afternoon.
So Eric's an alien.
Well, it's not impossible, is what I'm saying. Eric, if you're hearing this, you got to admit it's a possibility, man. So sometimes things just work out. I thought it was one of those moments where it was that bar. I thought specifically, I didn't even want to drink when I left. That wasn't on the menu at all. I wanted to go smoke a joint and come home and fall asleep. But I saw that bar and I thought, I want to go in there. And it turns out the spirit of Universal Soldier was waiting for me. Well, we are not here, sadly, to sing the praises of Universal Soldier Day of Reckoning, although you should watch it. It's very good. Instead, we are here to thank our patrons.
This one's for the patrons.
Patrons, we could not do what we do without you. So thank you. Thank you, thank you. For real, guys, every single person who downloads the Ghost Story Guys, you help make us who we are. But folks who can support us financially, you are the lifeblood of this podcast, and we would be hooped without you. And while we'd like to thank every single Patreon, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube subscriber, right now we'd like to thank our latest ones. In fact, I think there's just one, the latest one.
It is MacMan.
MacMan. I cannot hear that. This is probably not going to make much sense to you, but I cannot hear MacMan without hearing Jesse Ventura, for the old wrestling commentator, because that's how he kind of said Vince McMahon's name, MacMan. So, anyways, that's historical reference I'm enjoying entirely by myself, but that's fine.
Of course, most people know who Jesse Ventura is.
Oh, I figured you know who Jesse Ventura was. I mean, after all, he ain't got time to bleed. But I wasn't sure if specifically the MacMan reference would land. But well, no. Anyways.
I wouldn't have known that because it was involving a form of entertainment that I won't watch.
So, MacMan, thank you. From the bottom of our terrible hearts. Again, we want to thank every person who's supported us, past and present. It means the world to us. And if you want to join them, if you want to get access to bonus conversations between myself and Paul, our exclusive patron-only Discord, there'll be a fun story about the Discord naming my new Roomba coming up here soon, our monthly live stream, our Ghost Force shoutouts, and so much more. Head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys. You can click the link in the show notes, or you can become a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts. Again, to get early ad-free release, bonus shows, access to our patron-only Discord, and so much more, click the link in the show notes, head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or become a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts. All right, Paul, my friend. Are you ready to journey into the pages of Ruth Roper Wylde's These Haunted Times, Volume 6?
I was born ready.
What a coincidence. Me too. We should hang out. We'll be right back. Hey there, sports fans. Wanted to let you know before we start the stories that we discovered after finishing the entire B segment that my primary recording method had failed. So what you're going to hear for the entire bit where we're telling stories and bantering about them, you will hear my backup audio. So it will not sound as smooth as this or as smooth as the show ordinarily does. Just one of those little things that happens from time to time. Enjoy the rest of the show. All right, so our first story from Ruth Roper Wylde's These Haunted Times, Volume 6, comes from Atterbury in Oxfordshire. Atterbury in Oxfordshire, a little to the south of Banbury, is a quintessentially English village. There's a mixture of really old and picturesque buildings in the center of the village and newer modern builds on the outskirts. Even those newly built houses are interspersed with properly photogenic thatched cottages. One of the new build areas is Henge Close, just off Milton Road, in the part of the village known as West Atterbury. Prior to building the new houses, an archaeological survey was carried out in 2017 and revealed evidence which suggested a population of maybe 50 or so people had made the area their home in the Neolithic and early Bronze Ages. That might not sound like a huge number of people to our modern ears, but for the times it was quite a large and important settlement and demonstrates how far back in time human habitation of this pocket of land goes. The village has one well-known haunting, the ghost of Sir George Cobb. Sir George was possibly not very popular during his lifetime, since according to one website, he had an ongoing dispute with a local vicar about some of the windows in St. Mary's Church. Apparently, Sir George won the dispute and had the windows bricked up using stone from a local dog kennel, which smacks of a certain amount of disrespect. Paul, I have to know, do you know what the story is here? Do you know why this guy hated these windows so much?
I'm not too sure. There was a lot of weird taxes in those days. Quite why this would be brought in, because famously there was a window tax, And so the more windows you had in houses, the more tax you would pay, which is why you would sometimes stumble across certain buildings in the United Kingdom with bricked up windows because of that period. And they never bothered to change them back. Quite
Okay.
what that has in relation to this, I'm not sure. Maybe he was offended by whatever was on the image or something, I don't know, and just thought it being a pompous ass.
It's just a lady showing a little bit of her ankle. Whore! Burn it down!
That's probably the size of it.
All right, so whatever he hated the windows for, he hated the windows, and apparently won the dispute and bricked them up using stone from a local dog kennel. The legend goes that Sir George, who was the last in the line of the Cobb baronetcy, died in 1762, leaving no male heir to take the title. His dying wish to his remaining female relatives, who could not inherit his title, was that the 4 beautiful old oak trees, which stood on his land, should never be cut down. In the best tradition of all good ghost stories, they ignored his wish, and in time the old trees were felled for their timber. This act was rewarded by Sir George coming back to haunt the area, around the aptly named Sir George's Lane. Apparently his funeral coach is sometimes seen passing along the roads here, drawn by 4 spectral horses. Sir George's ancestral home was close to where the village green is now, and was demolished around 1815, with its stone being reused to build some of the village cottages. Jeannie told me that one of the properties was very haunted. It's one of the older properties in the village, but is a private residence, and so I won't give the actual address. Jeannie explained that it used to have a courtyard when her sister and brother-in-law lived there, and there was a ghost who would be seen there, apparently sweeping the old flagstones. An apparition of a black Labrador dog would also be glimpsed trotting contentedly around the house. In one of the rooms, there was a box on the wall containing the remnants of the old servants' bells, with each one neatly labeled for the room it corresponded to. All the actual bells and their cables had long since been removed, but sometimes the remnants in the box would move of their own accord, as if trying to respond still to the call of a bell from somewhere in the house. Jeannie herself was once pushed hard enough to stumble down the rear staircase, and her brother-in-law would see the apparition of a woman who he said had once lived in the house and had been cruelly treated by her husband. One of the doors in the downstairs corridor would constantly close itself with no apparent explanation, and in the end they took to keeping a doorstop against it to prevent the movement. The family eventually did move out, but only because they were looking to downsize, not because of their otherworldly experiences. Another lady told me that there was the ghost of a girl wearing a cloak known to walk up the main road, as well as another female ghost seen on the Milton Road, not far from Ball Colgrave Horticultural Company. There is also an account online about one of the cottages on Water Lane in Atterbury. Anthony Burgess lived on the property in the early 1950s. He was an author, for those of you who don't know. He wrote A Clockwork Orange, among other things, and wrote of it being haunted by the ghost of a previous lady occupant. She was apparently someone who suffered from mental health issues, and eventually committed suicide here. He described her ghost as a kindlier residue than the one they had assumed a tragic death might leave behind. She let her presence be known by bringing a sudden strong smell of violets, and on 2 occasions she left apports for them to find. An apport is a foreign object which belongs to no one in the house, and whose origin is unknown, which suddenly appears in a perfectly noticeable location, but with no obvious explanation as to how it got there. One of these apports was a shilling dated 1745, and the other, which appeared 2 years later in the same cupboard, was a telescopic toasting fork of around the same era. And Paul, I gotta tell you, those women who Cobb told, look, you crazy broads, you're not getting any of my money because that's not how this works, but you better look after my tree. I would be out there pissing on his tree as his last breath was rattling in his chest.
I hope they chopped them down and used the wood to build his coffin.
1000%. That's exactly what I was thinking. Oh, man. Hope you enjoy it, George. It's just for you. This coffin is the size of a small boat because we didn't need all this wood. We didn't, but we used it.
Buried him in Noah's Ark.
I wouldn't even bury him. I'd set out on the sea in the hopes he'd get fucked by a whale. That's what I would do.
Those days you had to be very careful that Scandinavians didn't pick you up and take you home as a present as they often used to do when they came across Inuit.
Really?
Yeah, they used to just steal them.
Jesus Christ.
And the canoes and stuff and bring them back home as like they'd caught a wild animal.
Good Lord. So weirdly, there was something I wanted to tell you about. It was sort of a weird coincidence. So they talked about the smell of violets there. I was talking to Nick yesterday, and apparently when she was at work, this awful smell of fish filled her entire office. And she thought, oh, someone's cooking fish in the break room. This is not cool. So it got so strong, she had to stand outside. And then one of her coworkers said, what are you doing? And she said, the smell is just brutal in there. So this person went in there. They couldn't smell anything, but Nick went in next to them, and she could smell it. It wasn't outside the office. It was only inside. It lasted for about 30 minutes, and no one else could smell it, just her, and she only smelled it in that room.
Mm.
And I was looking around, and I found that there are places where that is seen as a harbinger of death, like a bad omen. So let me tell you, I've been looking twice before I cross the street today.
I like the dog bits of it, because the interesting thing about that is that we know exactly how long Labrador and Labrador retrievers have been in the United Kingdom.
Oh, interesting. How is it you know that?
Because they're not a British dog breed. They were Canadian.
Oh, okay. So how long have they been there? Do you know?
200 years.
Interesting. So this dates this in the last 200 years.
Yeah, it's about 1830 they started being brought over by people who were working in Canada.
Okay.
And obviously they got their name from the area.
Right.
Yeah, they're one of, obviously, Britain's most popular breed now. My family, we've had 3, all of a variety of daftness. Ross was probably the favourite, who ate the fence in the back garden. He ate the fence.
That's
completely
dog, all right.
Yeah, a garden table at that. He pulled half the wallpaper off the kitchen at that. Labradors, they're very hungry.
I was going to say, Jesus, feed the poor fucking dog.
We did. Unfortunately, he was the same size as a small grizzly bear.
Right.
He was enormous. He was massive. Not fat. He was just the biggest Labrador I've ever seen in my life. But he thought he was still 18-month-old puppy, because he would come and then lay on you. It's the ultimate weighted blanket.
Paul, I might have been your dog in a past life, is what I'm thinking. Eating everything, just sleeping everywhere. It doesn't matter who's already in the chair. There's a very real possibility. I'm sorry you have to find out this way.
Well, one of the tenets of Buddhism is reincarnation. So maybe you were a Labrador in a past life.
There you go. It's hard to say whether this form is an upgrade or a downgrade. Kind of depends how I feel when I look in the mirror each morning.
Yeah. Well, you see, now you've started reading James Herbert. He does write a book about a Labrador retriever.
Oh, God. Folks, I started, at Paul's recommendation, I started reading James Herbert's The Rats today. And, woof, sweet crap. I am about 40, 50 pages in, and there was a scene already that I was not prepared for. Paul knows very likely which one I'm thinking of. If I say woof, you know exactly which one I mean.
Yes.
And when the scene started, I won't tell you folks because it's deeply disturbing, but when the scene opened, I thought, there's no way they're going to do that. And then they did that. And I thought, oh my fucking God. And I am going to see those images for the rest of my days. The closest thing I've come to anything like that is the film Where Evil Lurks. Have you seen that one?
Yes.
Coincidentally, another dog scene. That's the only thing I've seen that has that level of, oh, wow, they went there. There's another film called The Coffee Table, I'm told, but I haven't watched that because I looked it up and I thought I don't need those images in my head. But yeah. So anyways, Paul traumatized me is the short version. And him mentioning a golden retriever is making me worried about what happens in that book as well.
Is it a book about a golden retriever? Or is it a book about a man who thinks he's a golden retriever?
Oh, no.
And it's called Fluke.
Yikes. Okay, well, I have the Rats trilogy now. I have the Rats as Legion and Domain.
Lair,
and Domain. So if my psyche can withstand those 3 books, then we'll see about Fluke or maybe Marabou Stork Nightmares or something.
And the thing is, the Rats hasn't even got started yet, really. It gets much worse.
It gets worse?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Okay, well, look for me at your local psychiatric hospital. I'll be signing copies of my non-existent book with a fake pen. Yeah, another thing that occurred to me about that haunting is I don't think the guy in the courtyard is going to be Cobb, because there's no way in hell that guy would do his own sweeping. If you told me the ghost was yelling at passing Irish people, telling them to do it, then I would believe it was Cobb.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's not the kind of thing a man of his stature would do. That's why he employed people.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is the era where they had people wipe their bottoms when they went to the toilet.
Is that really a thing?
It was.
Oh, Lord.
It was a royal position here.
I understand now why people invented bidets. That is a job we need to automate.
Yes, medieval life was tougher than many think.
Especially if you were the royal ass. Good Lord, I don't even want to finish the sentence. I thought the rats was bad.
Didn't being Henry VIII's bum wiper. That'd be fun. With his appetite and his gout.
Weirdly, we have a lot of suicides in the king's court. We're not sure why.
Yes, he was renowned for his legs were so badly infected that they stank. Made people quite vomitous in his company.
Really? Hard to imagine why your peasantry doesn't revere the royal family in the modern era. It's tough.
It's probably why he had 6 wives.
Yeah, because they all kept on just taking off out of sheer terror. He didn't actually kill any of them. That was just his story, so he sounded gangster. I'm super gross is a real sad reason to have your queen take off on you.
Well, at least he did write Greensleeves, so I suppose it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Wells next the sea in Norfolk. This charming little town on the Norfolk coast has been a seaport since at least the 1300s and was also a settlement during the time of the Domesday Book in 1086 when it was listed as Goella. This is probably a bastardisation of the word for a spring from the Angles, who had inhabited this area. Over the centuries, the town's seaport suffered from the build-up of silt. There were marshes all around and no substantial river flow to keep the harbour cleared, and no matter what solutions were tried, nature always won out, and the silt seeped back in. Today, the actual sea is nearly a mile from the town itself, and the salt marshes are an attractive place to walk and visit. There's still a quayside, though, as the waterway has been kept to use for some extent for small boats. Set just back from the quayside is the Standard House chandlery shop. Over the centuries, it has had various usages, serving as a coaching inn for a considerable length of time for the busy port. Parts of it date back 700 years, and it gets its current name from the time when it was called the Royal Standard Inn. It's a 2-storied building with a steeply gabled roof, and boasts as part of its history the fact that the young Lord Nelson used to like to drink here. It was also, for a time, the first rural post office in Norfolk. Currently, it's an independent wine merchant's. Rowan wrote to me and explained, "Hello, Ruth. My father was born and grew up in Wells next to sea. He used to live in the Standard House when he was a young lad. Years later, he visited the shop and talked to the owner at that time. My dad was telling the man how he grew up there in the 1940s and 50s and explained what the building used to look like inside and so on. The owner asked my father if they'd ever seen or sensed any ghosts whilst they occupied the building, and my father replied that no, they never had. The owner then went on to explain that they've had lots of activity and have had to have the place exorcised more than once to try and stop it. Rowan explained that his father had now passed away, and this tale was told to him some 20 years or so ago, probably in the very early 2000s. When I asked locally, Joanne told me that she had worked in this building for many years in the 1970s, when there was a hairdresser's shop there. She never saw or felt anything paranormal, and none of her co-workers at the time ever mentioned hearing or seeing anything that they couldn't explain. Pauline remembered her sister staying in the property one time when there were rooms to let there, and although she often visited her sister, neither of them ever experienced anything odd. It begs the question, with no one else experiencing anything in the property, whether that one owner had inadvertently brought something with him, meaning it was he being haunted rather than the actual building. Several other people responded to my inquiries with other hauntings around the small town. One lady told me about a particular old property which her family home backed onto, back in the 1960s. I won't mention the actual property, since I think it's a holiday let now, but my witness told me that back then it was haunted by something the owners at the time referred to as the goat. My witness and her family would sometimes hear a weird, unearthly howling sound emanating from the house.
Another witness remembered that the old grocery shop, which used to be in the town, was haunted by a ghost known as George, who apparently used to do some rather strange things in the building, although no one seemed to be willing to give any further details on that. Interestingly, several people also talked about the property next door to the one with the goat. This one was well known locally for having the ghost of an old lady on its upper floors. Caitlin told me that in the 1960s, her father used to work for a local building company, and they were sure that that particular property was haunted. Her father could remember builders refusing to work there because of the things that would happen, and one other witness confirmed this. Caitlin's dad had told them that the lights would turn themselves on and off, and one sealed door they had been struggling to open suddenly flung open of its own accord, much to everyone's astonishment. Caitlin can remember walking past the building when she was a small child and would walk with her neighbour who had a small dog called Bingo. She remembered the house as being in a state of disrepair at the time and being quite scary to walk past for a young child. Another witness remembers being told that there were 2 ghosts in that property. There was supposedly a lady dressed all in white in the downstairs and an old man in a rocking chair who was seated in one of the upstairs windows. The witness remembered that the guest who had stayed in that room woke up to see him and actually sketch what he had seen. The lady ghost was also seen by another gentleman guest who had been absolutely terrified when she turned and smiled at him. Well, I suppose there's a stranger reaction to a lady giving you a cheeky smile, I suppose, Brennan?
I don't know. I never know how to interpret those things, so I also panic, but that's for different reasons.
True. Rupert also joined in the discussion, saying that he had been an electrician working on the renovations on the house back in 1969. He remembered a particular day when all the workmen were sitting around having their lunch break in one of the ground floor rooms, and distinctly heard the sound of footsteps coming from the room above them, even though they all knew there was no one up there. I also found an online snippet dated in 2012 when someone wrote about their parents' experiences in one of the properties on Freeman Street in the town. The snippet referred to events from at least a couple of decades earlier, so it's entirely possible that the haunting is no longer current. The couple living in the property at the time were in bed one night when they were awoken in the early hours of the morning by the sound of the front door opening and closing. This was immediately followed by the sound of footsteps coming up the stairs. Within seconds, the bedroom door swung open and someone entered the room. Terrified that they had a real intruder, the husband went to sit up and confront whoever it was. He saw a tall, thin man dressed in what he later described as something like an old-fashioned farmer's frock. He jumped out of bed and took a swing at the intruder, only to see him literally disappear with a slight swirl of mist. He spent several years assuming he must have had a particularly vivid dream, until one day the new occupiers of their old house asked them if they'd ever seen the man in the smock come into the house in the dead of night. I have all the properties listed by actual address in my database, so I'll be able to correlate any further accounts that I find or that people write to me with.
I'm curious, have you heard? I've never actually heard of Wells Next to Sea. That's a completely new town to me.
There's lots of places like that in Norfolk, because the 2 places people know in Norfolk are Norwich and Great Yarmouth.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of both those and not Wells to Sea.
Yeah, Norfolk's a big county, and it's got a lot of places that a lot of people don't know about. So
right,
it's kind of like one of Britain's hidden gems.
Oh, okay. Well, another county, before we keep talking about Norfolk, another county I didn't realize how big it was Somerset. I had it lined up to talk about on the last one. We just didn't get to it. But I found an article about this wood called, I think, Brown's Folly.
Yes.
In Somerset. And I mentioned it to Nick, and she grew up in Somerset. She'd never heard of it. And when I checked the map, it's east of Bath. And like I said, I didn't realize the county went that far.
Yeah, in Somerset, because it's basically the top of that part of England.
Right.
So you've got Dorset and Devon beneath it, and Cornwall to the west of it. But it just basically sits there, and everybody's a bit like, it's bigger than we think. But it's, once again, I think it's one of those places that, unless you're from around there, most people go through it rather than stay in it. because they're on the way to Cornwall or Devon or Dorset. So Somerset, once again, is one of those counties gets a bad rap because it's usually a thoroughfare rather than a destination. And people are missing out because Somerset has some beautiful coastlines.
Oh yeah, I mean, as I said, Nick, when she was living there when I met her, and then we lived in Cleveland, just south of Bristol, for about 8 months while we were waiting for her immigration paperwork to pass. And yeah, it's quite nice. I mean, even people make fun of Weston, and they should, but there's still some quite nice views there.
Yeah, as long as you look out to sea and not inland.
Yeah, out, always out. Even with where Nick lived, Cleveland, always out to sea, always out to sea.
But yes, the salt marshes of Norfolk are quite well known as well. So they are a testament, as we mentioned in that story, of nature's power over man's intelligence.
It really is humbling when you realize that so much of the shit that is us is just shaped by our reaction to our environment.
Very much so. Norfolk's one of those places that's had quite a substantial influence on Britain over the last, 15, 200, 2,000 years. So, it's where Hitler wanted to make his address after he successfully won the war. He was wanting to say it from Norwich Town Hall because he loved the architecture there. So even Hitler admired Norfolk.
Well, the sort of thing
It's not really an advertising slogan.
No.
Loved by Hitler. Come to Norfolk.
Well, I don't know. There's a lot. There's way more folks than there should be who would not be put off by that, is what I'll say. What we should have one of those QR code things. So basically, you tell us, hey, why did you come here? A, saw it on Google. B, saw the Hitler ad. And if you hit B, a boxing glove on a spring just jimes out of the wall and knocks your head clear into next week.
So yes, there's a lot of history in Norfolk.
No kidding. Well, speaking of Norfolk history, I actually found this article. I think it's from the Eastern Daily Press. It's called Weird Norfolk, Witches Next to Sea at Wells. They were the wise women of Wells, whose advice could be deadly. Known as either cunning women or men, wizards, wise men, or women or conjurers, those who offered help to others would do so in a variety of ways. Animal hearts were pierced with pins, dolls were made of rags and pierced to break bewitchments, rituals were carried out, and the needy were cured with the laying on of hands. In Wells, however, it appears two wise women weren't averse to lending a helping hand in a matter of revenge. In Frank Mears' Paranormal Norfolk book, there is a story recalled by a woman in service in Wells. Susie Barker worked for the Smith family in the town, an offshoot of the well-to-do Woods family, who lived at Morstan Hall for 100 years. Susie told her story to Anthony Hammond, who collected archive material in 1935. There was an old woman in Wells by the name of Maudie Green, who was known to be a witch, Susie told him. The boot boy at Mrs. Smith's house was one of the rabble boys who used to torment the old woman and hammer on her door, calling out, Maudie Green, the old witch. This is why witches should be allowed to have shotguns. Ass full of rock salt will never have that problem again. One day she came up pointing her stick at this boy who was the chief offender, and she put a spell on him. I mean, that works. That he would find 5 pins in his pocket when he got home, and that he would die in a fortnight. The boy, terrified, ran home, only to find out there were 5 pins in his pocket, as she had said there would be. From that moment he fell in with a mysterious wasting sickness, and gradually died the 14th day. When he fell ill, apparently after being cursed, he begged for the Bible to be read out to him as he wasted away, asked for one passage only to be read out to him. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, but I will fear Maudie Green. There were also tales of wise women being called in to help at the Railway Hotel in Wells in 1866 when items kept going missing. A cunning woman suspended a Bible on a string and made it revolve, and as it did so, the owner read out names of possible suspects. When the name Creek was reached, the Bible came to a stop, and the owner promptly sacked his employee called Creek, who just as promptly sued him for slander, and won. Perhaps he was in league with Monty.
Perhaps he was stitched up by the owner.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Oh, look, it stopped moving. I better fire that guy who's fucking my wife.
Yeah.
I cast Bren breaking into your bedroom and watching you sleep.
Again.
What else is in here? Hannah Shorten, another Wells wise woman, was associated with 2 murder cases within years of each other. One we have recounted in Weird Norfolk before, that of the Burnham poisoners Catherine Frary and Francis Billing. The other case, are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, arsenic.
Oh, no shit. I don't know. I feel like if you're like a so say a witch, and you're doing poisonings, I feel like you got to do something a little more creative than arsenic. If we know what that is, you can't. That's rookie shit.
Yeah, well, most of the time they didn't check for it because obviously arsenic. The strange thing about arsenic is it tends to collect in the feet, doesn't it? After you die.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which is why sometimes you'll find bodies without feet when they've been poisoned, which kind of gives the game away. But yeah, you've got to get to it quick enough because it does get absorbed very quickly, arsenic. But it does. One of the tests they have these days is residue. I'm not sure if it's because I'm sure it's a heavy metal, isn't it, arsenic?
I think so, yeah.
So it tends to, as the name suggests, go to the lowest point of the body.
Interesting. I had no idea. This explains why my feet are so shitty. Someone's poisoning me.
Went to that fortune teller the other day. My feet have been killing me ever since.
The fortune teller looked like my wife in a wig. Funny enough, I was just thinking on my way back from my walk today, I have seen so many psychics with signage up around my neighborhood. I want to say 3 or 4, which maybe, hey, that only sounds 3 or 4, but it's 2026 and they're paying Toronto rent, and there's still 3 or 4. Like they're either the real deal or their dad owns the building.
Even psychics are taking advantage of the World Cup, mate.
We'll finish up this poisoning here. So this is a case of Mary Wright. She was from Whiten in Norfolk. She was married to William, and the couple had children, number unknown, but there were infant deaths, and Mary suffered from poor mental health. She had tried to take her own life and that of William, and had been regularly heard to threaten him. In 1832, however, she went to visit Hannah Shorten. Shorten was a wise woman who was called on to lift enchantments, cast spells, make charms, and look into the future. One of her remedies involved burning arsenic with salt in order to have your wishes granted. Mary hid the poison she told a friend she was buying to kill rats in a plum cake. That was very poorly worded. She hid the poison, which she had told a friend she was buying to kill rats, in a plum cake. She then sent William to work with a sweet treat, and after he ate it, he died. So unfortunately did her father, who had eaten poisoned food by mistake, and was buried on the same day as her husband in Whiten Church on December 4th, 1832. Collar was suspected until Mary's friend Sarah Hastings mentioned the purchase of the arsenic, at which the bodies were exhumed, their stomachs removed, and tested. Mary was arrested, charged, tried, and found guilty. Hannah was not called as a witness, just as she wouldn't be in the Burnham trial either. Pregnant when she was found guilty, she gave birth to a daughter, and her sentence was reduced from execution to transportation to Australia. She never made the long journey, though, dying in Norwich Castle in November of causes unknown. That is a hell of a story. It actually kind of reminds me of a folk horror film I saw fairly recently. It's called The Severed Son.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's set in post-apocalyptic Cornwall.
Is there a difference?
I can't say that. I'm not English, so.
I like Cornwall. I'm only joking.
Yeah, no, Cornwall's very. I got married in Cornwall.
It's amazing.
But yeah, it's kind of a similar story. A woman's married to a guy who's a piece of shit, which it doesn't say in this story, but I'm assuming. She schemes up a way to kill him, and it works, but it sort of brings this darkness into the village. It's a solid little film. It's on Shudder. If anyone's ever bored, they want to watch some post-apocalyptic folk horror. It's called The Severed Son. Our next story comes from Hemel Hempstead in, am I going to get this right, Paul? Hertfordshire?
Yes, Hertfordshire.
Perfect. All right. Hemel Hempstead, Hertfordshire. I met Lucy at a ghost hunting event run by Ghostly Gatherings in Hertfordshire, where I was also giving a talk about my books and what I do in terms of research. Lucy was kind enough to share several of her experiences with me by email afterwards, some of which will be in a later book when I next do another volume of the Roadmap of British Ghosts series. Lucy wrote, "Hello, Ruth. As promised, I want to share my paranormal experiences. I've probably had more than most people, as I'm sensitive. I've only realized this in the last decade, as I have always questioned what I've seen or heard. I've had more experiences, but these are the most memorable. I moved in with my boyfriend, now my husband, in late 1999. That first address we had together was his flat that he owned prior to us meeting. It was on the Woodhall Farm Estate in Hemel Hempstead." Lucy continued, "From not long after I moved in, small things would happen. Things would be moved or would go missing completely. They were events which could easily be explained away, but nevertheless seemed to happen more than normal. This went on for about 18 months, with nothing of any particular note other than the constant small annoyances. Neither of us really mentioned it to the other until years later, as we kind of thought it was the other person responsible. In December 2001, I had my daughter, and I spent a lot of time on my own with her whilst my husband was at work. I never felt truly comfortable in that flat, but I was 21 with a new baby and pretty anxious about motherhood, so again, we didn't attribute that to anything in particular. One day, I put my daughter down for a nap in our room like I usually did, and went to the kitchen to get some lunch. As I opened the kitchen door, all the mugs on the hook were swinging on their own. I told myself it must be the wind, even though the window was closed. Our daughter would always be gabbling away and giggling. I assumed she was just chattering to herself. But then one day I picked her up out of her bed after a nap, and she looked over my shoulder and waved. Bye! As I carried her into the living room, she said, Where's Granny Ivy gone? This sent chills down my spine because Ivy was my grandmother, whom I had never met. She passed away 2 years before I was even born. When this happened, my daughter was maybe 2 years old and did not understand anything about death or ancestors or family history, and I had never spoken about my nan to her or even in front of her. I can't remember now quite at what point events happened, so forgive me as the timeline might not match up. I was in bed with my husband one night. It was late and he was asleep, but I couldn't rest. I could hear footsteps going back and forth on the other side of the door, like heavy slippers on carpet. It sounded just like a person pacing back and forth. After a few minutes of listening to this, I got frustrated and shouted, Will you stop that? I'm trying to sleep. The sound stopped immediately. At other times, my husband and I, on different occasions, both together and alone, witnessed the TV turning itself on and going up and down the channels at speed, although the control was sitting on the table with no one touching it. Eventually, things came to a head with an event that really piqued my interest in the paranormal and confirmed that what I had been seeing and hearing was definitely not my imagination. It was around 2 a.m. I woke up thirsty. My husband was stirring restlessly next to me in bed, and I climbed out to go to the kitchen to get a drink. On hearing me get up, my husband said, Could you get me a drink whilst you're up, please? I walked through the kitchen. I opened the fridge, which was on the left of the tiny room, and took the water jug out. To step in front of it and open its door meant that I had to put the kitchen doorway on my left, and I became aware that someone was standing in the doorway. I looked over because I assumed my husband had decided to follow me and get the drink he wanted. However, instead of my husband, I saw a man standing there. He filled the doorway and was wearing something white, which I thought looked something like one of those old-fashioned farmer's smocks. I couldn't see clear features, but he had dark hair and was bald on top. The only illumination in the room was a light from the fridge, so it was pretty dark. Although my mind registered those details on some level, I was also half asleep, and still thinking it was my husband, I said, Why'd you ask me to get you a drink when you're getting up anyways? The figure did not give any response. I turned back to the fridge and poured the water and then closed the fridge door again. By that time, the figure was gone. I went back to bed, only to notice my husband still under the duvet. I said, Why'd you get up anyway when you asked me to get you a drink? As I handed him a glass of water. He replied, puzzled, I haven't moved from the spot. I thought back to the man in the kitchen. It was only then that I realized, when I looked at him, I had been able to see through his bottom half, through to the unit in the front room on the other side of the doorway. I only saw him as a solid figure from the waist upwards. I shrugged it off and went back to sleep, thinking I must have imagined it. The next morning, as I was leaving my flat, my neighbor in the block adjoining mine ran over to me and said, Oh my God, I had the scare of my life last night. I was watching TV about 2 a.m. and a man wearing what looked like a farmer's smock came through your adjoining wall, across the front room in front of me, and through the other wall. The weirdest thing was, I only saw him from the waist upwards. These are true events, with nothing made up or embellished. After that, I knew without a doubt that there are paranormal things, and although I always try to find the rational explanation first, I now know to look a little more closely. And Paul, this all of a sudden, I understand now why Michael Myers got away with wandering into the bedroom just wearing a sheet, because people apparently are much more relaxed about strange figures in their house than I would be.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a ghost, isn't it? It's obvious.
That would not be my first thought. I got to be honest with you. Anytime I see a figure in my house, I just assume it's go time. And by go time, I mean I'm going to get stabbed. You know, not to think that I'm like that I think I'm some secret badass or something. I've got all the cardio of a fridge. So, I'm not expecting to. Best I can do is put myself between whoever it is and my wife to give her enough time to get out.
It's probably just the ghost of Sir Francis Bacon wandering around.
That's an interesting pull. Why Sir Francis Bacon?
He's associated with Hemel Hempstead. He's probably the most famous person associated with the town.
Oh, interesting. So he was from there.
No, he became a mayor of a neighbouring locality, and so which is now part of Hemel Hempstead. It's one of those places, Hemel Hempstead. It's another one because it's now a commuter town because it's about 20, 25 miles outside of London. So it's a big community town, really. So.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like St Albans and places like that, which is also in Hertfordshire. So it's grown quite considerably. It's also got the largest indoor ski slope in England, I believe.
I have still never seen an indoor ski slope, and I really want to see one. Because growing up in a ski town, it seems like such an odd concept to put a mountain inside. And I understand it's not actually a mountain, but it just seems like one of those folly of men things that you would see in a dystopian sci-fi film after the fall, and they're wandering through the wreckage and they go, "What was this place? There's a mountain inside." And they go, "No. We made fake snow here and people skied."
Yeah, there's quite a few in the UK.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You guys don't have the actual the natural features for it. It's just odd. It's like those indoor skydiving places. It just seems strange to me. Like it seems cool, but also strange.
Yeah. Well, we don't get anywhere near the level of snow we used to get when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah, right.
I mean, Scotland still, and certain high points get it, but, you could guarantee it every winter. And, like I said to you earlier this year, we had 3 days this year.
Jesus, that's it.
That was it, yeah. And we used to get so much snow when I was a kid. We'd build igloos and stuff, and it would be there for like 3-4 weeks, minimum.
Oh, yeah. I remember because I grew up across from a train yard. So they would kind of dump all the snow from the street plowing there. And you would have these, I remember them being massive, maybe not as big as I thought they were because I was small at the time, but we would play in them like they were castles. They were so hard packed. And this year, I don't think they had a fraction of that.
Yes. Have you ever seen Quatermass 2?
I have not.
Well, if you get the chance to watch it, you can look at this strange town in the background and think, what is that? And that is Hemel Hempstead.
Oh, okay.
I think they filmed, was it Project Hail Mary?
Yep.
I think some scenes of that have filmed in Hemel Hempstead as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's how odd.
It's been because it's quite an old, as you can imagine, we're talking about Francis Bacon and stuff. It's been around for a very long time as Hemel Hempstead. So it's kind of got an old town and a new town. So it's kind of got two parts to it. And the old town is obviously very, very old. And so it's quite picturesque and scenic. So it makes a wonderful backdrop. Do you know what it's most famous for?
I do not.
It has the magic roundabout.
What makes it magic?
It's a famously complex ring junction. Built in 1973, it features 6 mini roundabouts arranged in a circle around a central island, allowing traffic to flow in both directions and navigate the same junction from multiple routes.
Oh, I think we've talked about this because I'm pretty sure I looked at a photo and decided that it was some kind of black magic spell.
Ironically, there is another one in Swindon.
You know what? Maybe we were talking about the Swindon one.
Yeah, because I've not been on the Hemel Hempstead one, but I've been on the Swindon one. The Hemel Hempstead one is much nicer, but ironically, they were both built within a year of each other. So, which is also the time that the show had been on, the Magic Roundabout television show.
I wondered which came first.
Which, of course, famously, when the BBC bought it, they didn't have a script or a soundtrack. And so the version that's played in the UK was completely made up. We've no idea if that's the actual story.
Oh.
In a strange twist of fate, Eric Thompson, who will be mostly known for the success of his actress daughter Emma, who everybody is aware of, basically wrote them on the fly. And so he narrated and wrote all the scripts just based on watching the programme with no sound and decided that that was the story on each episode.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Hey, that's the 70s for you, man. Just go with it.
It's like that show we've talked about before, MXC. Is it Most Extreme Challenge? It's that they took all the footage from that Japanese show Takeshi's Castle, and then they just turned it into a westernized version of it. And they just kind of had announcers, like voices speaking over top, but it wasn't the same soundtrack at all. They were just making up whatever the shit it was they were saying.
Yeah.
A proud tradition. I look forward to seeing what we start doing that with in the future. I guess we've seen it, because I sent you that video of the dude who does the voices over the old Marvel cartoons with Doctor Doom with auto-tune on his voice. Before we move on to the next story, I'm kind of curious. Folks, you might hear some background noise here. If you do, I apologize. But we were talking about briefly Brown's Folly. And I'm curious, are you familiar with the story of the Banshee out there?
There's a wolf sanctuary nearby.
No. They spent all that time. There's a whole BBC podcast about this. Like podcast series about this. And there's a fucking wolf sanctuary nearby.
Yeah, I think there are certain places where areas, the story bears little resemblance to the actual facts. And I think this is one of those where a lot of things have been misinterpreted or put forward hoping that people don't look at the area. But I think you can discount it because there is a wolf sanctuary nearby, and we know how far a wolf's howl can travel.
Of course.
I mean, there's another one somewhere. Is there not a graveyard in the States where people used to report hearing strange noises? And that's near a zoo as well, which people don't like to put two and two together. So it's all about, are you an honest paranormal investigator or are you just a bullshitter?
Well, a lot of folks do not make any kind of distinction.
I mean, I may be accepting the rational explanation, but also, why would a banshee be knocking about a wood in Somerset? The banshee is not an English thing.
Just got on the wrong bus and never found its way home. The buses out there are very infrequent. So, I mean...
Well, true. I can believe that, if at all, in certain places. But so, it's one of them. Oh, it's a banshee. But why is it a banshee? And that's not what banshees do anyway. Banshees are tied to a specific family. They don't just wander around woods wailing.
Scaring teenagers in their cars.
Well, you don't need to do that. I'm sure it's probably more likely to come across somebody dogging than a banshee down there.
We'll give you folks a sec to look that one up.
Maybe it's a banshee that likes dogging. I don't know.
Don't judge.
Who am I to tell them what they can and can't do?
That's it. Do as you will, banshee friend. Do as you will. Consenting adults, it's all good.
So yeah, it's one of those things, oh, it's the banshee. Well, no, it's just misinterpreting and mispromoting something that is distinctly Irish and Scottish into just a generic bit of Britain, or England rather, and I'm not having that.
It seems wild to me that that's just people will just say that knowing that it's not even close to being correct.
Well, they don't care, or they don't know. They don't know. They just think, oh, I've heard about banshees. It must be this, and have absolutely no idea of the actual history, the legends, the stories, the connection, and how it works. It's just a throwaway term for some people,
Right.
It's the paranormal, so we can just apply it.
People understand it. It's like when we talk about people randomly calling things skinwalkers.
Yes.
It's like, it's not. It's just, not everything that you don't understand is a skinwalker or a rake or whatever you saw on Reddit today. That's not how any of this works.
Are you sure?
Well, it depends on how much money you want to pay.
Next, we visit the delightful hamlet of Leighton Buzzard in Bedfordshire. There used to be a Clark's shoe shop on the high street in Leighton Buzzard, which has sadly now closed permanently. The building itself dated back to the 1700s, consisting of red, locally sourced brick and a gabled Welsh slate roof. It is a narrow 3-storey building, wedged amongst the others on this old high street, with an arched passageway down one side of it, which would once have led to the stable mews behind the shops. Interestingly, when researching the shops, the local Leighton Linslade History Research Group were able to establish that the premises spent a surprising amount of time as a shoe shop, from 1861 until 1972, and then from 2000 until 2008 as the K Shoe Shop, and lastly Clark Shoes until it closed in December 2020. I found a snippet from 2017 where a lady remarked that before the shop was altered, they had many a strange thing happen in the older part of the building for which they couldn't explain. I asked locally for any information, having pretty much drawn a blank online, and was contacted by Emma Saunders, who runs the ghost investigation group called Ghostly Gatherings. Emma told me that her team had investigated the building, and she kindly shared the results with me with permission for me to reproduce them here. The team conducted their investigation in March 2020, just before the pandemic hit in the UK and the lockdown was enforced. At that time, the premises were still an operating shoe shop. They were asked to do the investigation by the two girls who worked there, as they had experienced shoeboxes and other items being moved around in the back of the building, in the storage area, at times when they absolutely knew that no other human agent was present. The two staff told the Ghostly Gatherings team that they believed their ghost might be that of a young woman, although they weren't really able to articulate why they thought that. The team did not do any research or ask further questions prior to starting their investigation because they prefer to go in blind, as it were, so they do not inadvertently bring bias to anything they may perceive whilst working in that location. As soon as they entered the premises, Emma felt the presence of a woman at the back of the property and also felt there had been horses stabled outside. They later had it confirmed to them that the archway at the side of the building once did lead through to stables for the pub that used to be next door. During their investigation, they were using a REM pod in the area at the bottom of the stairs on the ground floor, and it was triggered a few times. The model that Emma's group was using on this occasion is hidden inside a toy teddy bear, with the assumption that doing so may encourage child spirits to come forward and interact with it. By doing this, incorporating the theory of using a trigger object with a measuring device. Trigger objects are, of course, things that are used that may trigger a response from the spirits you're trying to connect with. So a monk may react to the presence of a cross, for example, or a child to a toy, and so on. They also picked up on the names William and John, and again later discovered that these were the names of two brothers who once owned the building. There was a William Woodstock in 1861 in the shop who was also a bootmaker. They also caught sight of several apparitions. There was a lady and a young child up on the landing at the top of the stairs, a young lady in the back storeroom, and an elderly lady who it was believed may have died falling down the stairs. At one point during the evening, Emma felt a sharp pain between her shoulder blades, as if someone had punched her hard. On the CCTV footage that was caught, there is an orb which is seen to float behind her, and then follow her as this happens. Emma asked whatever it was affecting her to step away, and at that moment the orb was seen to move off. The CCTV also showed one of the investigators walking along one of the corridors and then stopping and turning around to look behind her as if she was sensing something. At the same moment, another orb moves quickly away from her. Emma lives in a fairly new-built house elsewhere in Leighton Buzzard, and although the houses are reasonably new, the site itself has a long history of use as an industrial area, so there's been long-term human occupation of the land. She moved in 5 years ago, and at first everything was normal and quiet in the paranormal sense. But Emma said to me, that started to change after I'd lived there around 4 or 5 months. To begin with, I'd see shadows in my peripheral vision, and I just thought it was probably my imagination. Then, over time, it gradually became more obvious, to the point where I'd see someone at the front door. A gentleman, I believed. I would see him at the front door, and then a moment later, I'd catch another shadow out of the corner of my eye in the kitchen. I realised after a while that he was walking through the house by passing underneath the stairs, which is why he seemed to appear by the front doors and then the kitchen. In the summer of 2021, I had friends round one day, and whilst we were sat out in the garden, they saw a man walk past my kitchen window inside the house, even though there was no one in there at the time. On another occasion that same summer, while she was dog-sitting for me, a friend heard banging noises coming from inside the cupboard under the stairs. Eventually, a group of us decided to do a Ouija board session, and the name Marcus came up. So that's where I now call the ghost in my house. We also got the name Stevenson on the board, and there is a road with that name not far from where I live, but I'm not sure what, if any, connection that is. I was in bed one night with my then partner, and we both saw a white mist float across the bottom of the bed. We both spoke out at exactly the same time in surprise. It looked similar to those shimmering heat waves you see on the road on a hot day, but this was white and misty. My friend Lucy also stopped one night after we'd been out, conducting a ghost hunt, and we were sitting together talking in the front room when we both heard someone say, "Whoa!" as if they were pulling up a horse. We both looked at each other to acknowledge the noise. Lucy stayed over that night, and I gave her my bedroom since mine is a 2-bedroomed house. I settled down to sleep on the couch, and she came back down to speak to me 20 minutes after going to bed, as she'd heard somebody walking about on the landing. Footsteps upstairs is a regular thing in this house. I've heard my name called out to me 3 times since I've been here, and my son constantly calls down to me thinking I've shouted his name when I haven't. I've experienced sleep paralysis when I was 100% awake with a man standing over me, telling me to keep my eyes shut. I actually tried to open them, but I couldn't. He leant over the bed for about 2 minutes, and then I heard him step backwards, walk out of the bedroom door, and onto the landing. At that moment, I was able to open my eyes and sit upright in bed. I've had numerous things go missing: shoes, bags, bracelets, necklaces, etc. But the weirdest thing was when a spirit box, which I use in my investigations, went missing. Someone I know was hoping to run a live stream at their venue, so I'd suggested she use the spirit box beforehand to see if she could pick up anything, and offered to lend her one of mine. I spent 3 weeks looking for it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I went into the drawers under the TV at first, as that was where it was kept after every time it was used, but it wasn't there. I pulled out the drawers, boxes, and half the house looking for this thing. I contacted 2 venues that we'd recently investigated at to see if I'd inadvertently left it behind, but it was nowhere to be found. Eventually, I concluded that it had to be somehow lost, and I ordered another one online. That evening, my partner came home from work. I told him exactly why I'd ordered a new one, and then opened the drawer under the TV to retrieve something. There, sitting exactly where it should have been, was my spirit box. Even more strangely, the same spirit box went missing just 4 months ago in 2024, and I again ordered another one in exasperation, because I was sure it was definitely gone for good this time. 2 days later, it turned up exactly where I thought I'd left it. I've no explanation as to how this happened, or where it had gone, and it puzzles me constantly. I know I'm not going mad. In 2022, Emma asked around the local area where she lives as if anyone on her housing estate has had any weird experiences. 6 people contacted her independently of one another, all describing the same gentleman spirit as she herself had seen. A 7th person had been asked by their young child, "Mummy, why is there a man floating past the front window?" Emma feels that it's likely that this spirit is simply following the route he used to when this was an industrial area, and the fact that there now happens to be houses in his way is of no consequence to his movements, which are firmly rooted in the past. This would explain the strange route he takes whilst walking through her stairs.
When you had Steve Mera on, you guys were talking about apports. Did he not say something about them finding temperature differentials? Like something is a different temperature when it comes back?
Yes, so I've seen this not only when Steve mentioned it, but I have seen this in other investigations over the years, and it's something that people take into consideration a lot more than they used to, that people have begun to realise that, because there's a few cases where people have picked things like pebbles, coins, whatever, and they feel warm to the touch.
Right.
And they're like, well, this is a bit odd. And so Steve's obviously one of those researchers who likes to use the scientific method in regards to data and analysis of things. And that's one of the things that they were able to quantify and measure, that when these apports were happening, the objects were returning at a slightly higher temperature. So it's an interesting aspect, but it has been noticeable in several cases over the year. But I think now we're in a situation where people pay attention to it more, whereas at the time they just go, "Oh, that's weird, where's that come from?" Now We're like, right, How old is the object? What kind of object it is? Does it feel warm to the touch? Does it feel cold to the touch? Is there something happening here that gives us some kind of clue as to what has occurred here to make this object disappear and reappear?
Interesting. Yeah, I find that because that's one of those things. It's such a to have something appear, or like in the last story, or disappear and then reappear. It's not just mugs swinging or whatever. This is a thing that was here and is now gone, which I find to be just a real trip. That would really, I think, disturb me because I need to kind of have answers. I need to be like, this is, A plus B equals C. So to just have something just zoop out of existence would, I think, make me crazy.
Yeah, you get used to it. We used to have coins appear all the time in the house.
That's crazy.
And you just hear it drop.
Fair enough. I guess maybe I would get used to it. I mean, hey, goes to the new apartment. You want to start dropping money on a guy? I won't stop you.
Yeah. Well, you've got the on Unsolved Mysteries when they do the Navajo Rangers episode. The poltergeist case in that was in a pot dropping coins, and he kept them all, didn't he?
Of course, I'd forgotten clean about that. Yeah,
there was hundreds of them, and you got that massive jar full of coins that were found at this particular property. So it does happen in poltergeist cases, especially. You would have ports and objects disappearing and reappearing, or as Emma mentioned there about it disappearing then just turning back up, but also objects appearing in places that, like a locked room or a locked cupboard or somewhere really odd, like a car boot or something. You'd be like, what? Why is this here? Or inside a locked suitcase.
Right.
So it's part of the trickster thing, I think. It's having fun and it knows it.
There'll be none of that around me. No fun whatsoever. I'm too Catholic for that shit.
I am the fun sucker.
I actually used to know a guy. He called his wife the fun zapper. What a great relationship, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, one of my friends called my ex the fun sucker because she said no matter how much fun you were having, she could absolutely kill any buzz.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Why are you all having fun? I don't want you to have fun.
It's called human joy. You should try it. It might make you a better person to be around,
Mm.
Okay. There's people beyond the reach of even joy.
The only thing that gave her joy was making people upset. That's what gave her joy.
I mean, there are those folks out there. That's for damn sure. Some people, I think, are just built to make other folks miserable, and I think they go around finding people. Like I've done that. Like my really bad relationship was someone who her family thing they do is they find either men who are really weak and they just ruin them mentally, or they find men who are really abusive and are ruled by them. These are the two options.
Yep.
And I was the schmuck who, for a time at least, got ruled.
As I always say, you can always meet those people. They can start an argument in an empty room.
Oh, God. Yeah, I can't do that. That is one of those relationship things. I will not have recreational arguments. Like, I've got a buddy of mine who's Irish. And he's like, like fighting for fun. No, I don't know. This is a you thing. This is an Irish thing. Yeah. This is not, I don't fight for fun.
Yeah. And we don't have an argument. We'll, or me in general, what we'll do is we'll sit down and then we'll both agree I'm right.
Try telling Nick that. No, he's not a big fan.
Just like to say, pinch that from the legendary Brian Clough. Thank you, Brian. It's not my quote.
Oh, man. So just before we wind up here, we talked about Disclosure Day in the intro. And I know, obviously, I liked it well enough. I thought it's a fun film. But then in terms of its UFO content, I had to imagine that watching it that it was going to be, shall we say, controversial with folks who move in your circles. And I'm kind of curious to know what you've been hearing.
It's quite polarizing. Some people think it's amazing. Some people think it's dreadful.
Right.
And I think, as with anything, especially in the world of ufology, especially right now, people always put their stock in something with no actual evidence or proof of what they're expecting to be delivered will be delivered. And people for ages said, "Oh, this is why he's done this film, and this is what's going on." And we're going to, it's the signal for, these people. There is this theory in ufology that the reason, I mean, it's very limited. I suppose it shows how poor people's grasp on the history of literature is in ufology, that they only think that UFOs have been a thing in popular culture since the end of the Second World War. And there is a strong theory from certain sections of the ufology community that all the films and things that people have seen are a subliminal message to get people prepared for first contact.
Right.
And I've seen that from people all around the world. I think it's ludicrous, personally.
Agreed.
And I think so many people put their stock in this film being evidence for some reason. But
Oh, weird.
and so I think a lot of people have hung their hats on it, and therefore, I mean, I've not seen it. I've got a lot on at the minute for the next 3 weeks. If the aliens turn up to play football, I might watch it. And so it's not surprising for me that some people think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I have to say, I found Spielberg's filmography since Schindler's List to be very hit and miss. Compared to his first 20 years, I barely like anything he's made in the last 30 years.
Oh, okay.
Whereas, first 20 years, there's 3 or 4 that I've watched over and over again. Maybe that's me. Maybe he's a bit more sort of formulaic. I don't know. I mean, he's still one of the greatest film directors the world's ever seen. But it is what it is. And I think people are disappointed in it. But then again, a lot of people are taking the notice of David Grush in these Whistleblower.
Oh, yeah. I wondered if people might have that sort of anticipation for the film, if they thought it was going to tell them some great truth. And I always thought that was odd because in the end, it's just a movie. Like, yeah, it's Spielberg going back to aliens, but I mean, who cares? It's like if he did another shark movie. I don't think it's telling us something revelatory about the nature of life, of a shark's life. It's just the next thing. And I mean, why disclosure date? Because it's in the zeitgeist. It has been for the last few years. All these nerds talking about disclosure and the government, man, they're going to tell us. And frankly, and I've said this on Where Did the Road Go, I think all this release of documentation is just to try to distract people from the Epstein files.
Absolutely.
But it's not, because it's nothing. Actually, I think it was Saxon from Where Did the Road Go. He pointed out that one of the photos in their files is from a literal joke. It's like for like it's an obvious Photoshop that was done as a spoof thing a few years ago, but it's been lumped in as like, also look at this proof of this alien, and it's nonsense.
The footage of him shooting down one of those Chinese spy balloons is in there.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I mean, the last videos they released on Friday are the first time I've ever seen anything that looks similar to what I saw.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I haven't seen those videos yet.
They're balls of light.
Oh, fascinating.
Flying in the sky. And that's the closest thing I've ever seen to what I saw.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out.
They're certainly more interesting than anything else I've seen.
Yeah, no, that's it. It's all smokescreen. And I don't know why. I mean, again, I have to imagine their marketing team was hoping this would happen. Because obviously you want, it's not a massively expensive film, but it's not a cheap film either. And watching it, I mean, I like later Spielberg more than you do, but I would still say it's still pretty mid-tier Spielberg. Like it's good. I enjoyed it, but I mean, I enjoyed it on its own merits, not as, I recognize that it incorporates stuff from UFO lore, like Screen Memories and Night Terrors and things like this. But at the same time, I just went into it expecting an entertaining film, and I wasn't looking for more than that. So I came out thinking, yeah, it's solid. I mean, I didn't think Emily Blunt was the right call for the lead. I thought she was miscast.
We see people saying she's hot favorite for the Oscar next year now.
That cannot possibly be correct. Someone is getting paid a lot of money to be very nice to that lady. Because, hey, I loved Emily Blunt in The Fall Guy. I think Emily Blunt is great. I think she was 100% the wrong choice for that film. Frankly, it looks like she has so much Botox, her face can't move all that much at all.
Well, maybe that's Dr. Stephen Greer's fault. What if they'd have cast him?
They could have, because then when the scene where the car is being crushed up against a train, they could have just left him in the car.
Crying.
Yeah, that's it. Run over by a train. Problem solved. Well, folks, let us know what you thought of Disclosure Day if you go. Again, I enjoyed it well enough. It is, as far as Steven Spielberg films go, it is totally fine. It's not better or worse. I thought The Fabelmans is better, but The Fabelmans is also one of his best movies, full stop. Well, one more thing before we go. I just want to say congrats to someone we've worked with briefly on this show. Way back in 2021 or 20, I think it's 2022, actually. We did those audio dramas. The Transmissions from the Void series. We did those trilogy of them. And one of them was based on a short story by Mike Thorne, who's an Indian horror author called Havoc. Last night I sat down to start watching some of my Vinegar Syndrome films that I've got kind of backed up. And one of them is a brand new 4K transfer of The Mangler with Robert Englund. And it also comes bizarrely with a book of essays about The Mangler, which is not a thing I ever thought was going to exist, but here we are.
Is The Mangler the short story from Skeleton Crew? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Yes.
Yeah. Vinegar Syndrome, usually if they're doing a big 4K, if it's a box set, they'll have like a little book of essays about the film. And sometimes you can tell they're stretching, right? Like we're trying to make something more out of this than maybe we need to.
Yes.
But one of the essays was by Mike Thorne.
Ah.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice to see again someone who has crossed paths with our show having success out there in the wider world. That was pretty cool.
Very nice. Well done, Mike.
Yes, congrats, Mike. And like I said, that's going to bring to a close this installment of Stories from Ruth Roper Wylde's These Haunted Times, Volume 6. If you want to hear more stories from Ruth, read by yours truly, you can find me on Audible. You can find volumes 5 and 6 on Audible. I'm currently working on volume 1 as well. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our Ghost Force shoutouts. Hey there, listeners. Before you reach for that skip 15 seconds ahead button, I promise you this isn't an ad. We wanted to take a minute to talk to you about mental health. On this show, I've always tried to be as honest and open as possible about my struggles with depression and anxiety, because even though we've come a long way towards acknowledging the very real damage these things can do, there is still way too much lingering stigma about reaching out for help. And when you start to feel like there's no help, it's easy to start feeling like there's no hope. But Paul has joined me today to remind you there is always hope and there's always help.
We're not going to try and talk you out of self-harming right now, because we know that's not how it works. Instead, what we wanted to do was tell you something now and hope that should things get bad, you'll remember it and make a phone call or send a text message before you make any permanent decisions. As someone who knows all too well just how important mental health can be, it's never too late to reach out.
In Canada, the number to call is 133-456-4566. In the USA, the new number to call is 988. That's 988.
In the UK, the number to call is 116123 or text SHOUT, that's SHOUT, to 85258. In Australia, the number to call is 131114.
However bad shit seems, it will pass. And no matter what your brain might be telling you at any given moment, and believe me when I say I know this intimately, there are people who love you and people who care deeply about how you treat yourself. Should a time come when you find yourself despairing, please know that we've both been where you are, and there is a way back to the world. Take care. Welcome back.
The Ghost Story Guys is hosted by Mr. Brennan Storr.
And of course, my friend and co-host is the one, the only, the inimitable Paul Bestel, the paranormal Johnny Carson himself, host of Mysteries and Monsters. Paul, what's going up on M&M?
I welcome an author with an intriguing story of a near-death experience that changed the trajectory of his life and has led him into a world of strangeness ever since. And so,
Kieran Stanislav Mace will be joining me to discuss his book Paranormality, and we will be unpeeling the layers of his near-death experience as a child and the ramifications of what that's done for the rest of his life.
Interesting. Okay. And where can everyone find you online?
You can find Mysteries and Monsters across most social media platforms and all podcast sites.
I'm Largely the Truth on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Letterboxd. You can find my horror fiction show, Fear Daily, co-authored with Brandon Scheck-Snyder, everywhere fine podcasts live. You can hear me reading more of Ruth's stories over on Audible. And you can find my personal website at largelythetruth.com. Of course, we could not do any of this without the support of our patrons, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube subscribers. You guys are the real MVPs, and we appreciate every single one of you, past and present. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. You guys really are appreciated a huge amount. And if you would like to get access to early, ad-free release, bonus conversations between myself and Paul, additional episodes, our monthly live stream, and so much more, you can click the link in the show notes. You can head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or you can become a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts. Again, click the link in the show notes, head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys, or become a Cabinista on Apple Podcasts for early ad-free release, bonus episodes, and so much more. And of course, if you support us at the $20 level and above, well, my friend, that makes you part of an elite club. A club that's been banned in a number of countries because we're too fucking cool and we make everyone else look lame.
Yeah.
The club is called Ghost Force.
Ooh, baby.
What he said. Okay, we probably shouldn't both be doing that. That is not. Nope.
Calm down.
No. Okay, I'll stop. I'm sorry. I just like making the noise is the thing. But we're gonna read Ghost Force now.
Good.
I'm so sorry. The members of Jesus Christ. The members of Ghost Force are
Ethan Saragon,
Alyssa,
Amy Chamberlain,
Beth Whitaker,
Corinne Wilson,
CT,
Dexterous,
Eric Abel,
Hannah Brown,
Jane Moores,
Janani Bananani,
Jenny
Janani
Bananani,
Bananani,
Jennifer Mullen,
Joseph Como,
Liam Hudak,
MacMahon,
Mark Semler,
Maggie Megadeth,
Melinda Storms,
Merlin Hansen,
Libra on fire because I forgot to change it before I assembled the script,
OTR Chucker,
Peter Gunn 08.5,
Rebecca Brink,
Ruckin' Runny Shenanigans,
Ryan Huskin,
Rin,
Serenity,
Shannonsteyer,
Trash Panda Kit,
Trent Cutnan, Werewolfy,
and Zippy. Oh, Zippy.
You're the few. He's still going. You are the spooky. Oh no. You are the few. You are the spooky. You are Ghost Force. For real. For real, guys. Thank you so much for your generous support. Genuinely, we couldn't do it without you, and we are humbled by your generosity. And if you would like to join that band of merry lunatics whom we love very, very much, you can head to patreon.com/ghoststoryguys and support us at the Ghost Force level. Paul, my friend, do you have any guest spots coming up?
Well, by the time this is out, I will have presented ASAP's Thursday night show, so you can visit them and check that out, and I will be discussing the strangeness of poltergeists. So that will be available. I've got a couple more coming up, but I'm still waiting on dates that I can fit in around football.
Okay. Our latest episode of the TV and movie trivia podcast just dropped today. That's, of course, hosted by Brian Sheehan, and you can listen to Paul and I doing trivia from Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. And then Thursday, we're going to be recording the episode for Fallout. So, very Very exciting stuff. I do like hanging out with Brian, and it gives me an excuse to watch Mission Impossible again, which I will never turn down. I don't have any spots coming up. You sons of bitches, invite me on your shows. I've got a few Where Did the Road Go in the pipeline that are recorded, just not out yet. But for now, no appearances booked. And don't worry, I'm not taking it personally. I'm not taking it personally at all. Oh, no, kidding.
I'm glad you're staying strong.
What can I say? I'm a proud man. I don't like to beg.
Should never be too proud to beg.
Okay, I'll try that next. It's probably better than just turning up at people's rooms when they're sleeping.
Yeah, that can be problematic.
Gazing into Tim Renner's eyes. Tim, why haven't you had me on your show yet, Tim?
Hiding in people's sink units, whispering up the plug hole.
Have Brennan on your podcast.
Get Brennan on. Brennan Storr.
Also, put some more of that chili down here.
Cooked bacon always goes down the plug hole. Don't pour hot drinks down here.
At least for the next 15 or 20 minutes.
Till I finish this bacon.
Oh, man. If you want to pick up some Ghost Story Guys merch, you can head to our website at ghoststoryguys.com. We have all kinds of cool stuff there, stickers, t-shirts, and so much more. You can also fill out the form there if you want to get in touch, send us a story, or send us a comment for a Talk Spooky episode. As I mentioned before, if you want to reach us, not only can you fill out the form, you can send us an email at ghoststoryguys@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram as The Ghost Story Guys. We're on Facebook as The Ghost Story Guys Cabin. We are on TikTok as Ghost Story Guys, and we are on Reddit as r/Ghost Story Guys podcast. Finally, our theme song is Radio Into the Darkness. Oh, and actually, one last thing. You should know, if you do send us an email, be prepared to have it read on the show. That's, if you don't want it read on the show, you can say so. That's fine, 100%. But if you want us to interact with it, and to talk about it on the show, because we try not to. I don't really have time for personal responses, but I try as much as I can, but quite often I don't get there. But if you don't want us to read something on the show, you have to tell us. You have to specify in the email, because we had someone who is lovely reach out and say, "Oh, I didn't realize you're going to read that part on the air." It's like, man, unless you tell me, I'm going to read the whole motherfucker on the air. If it's just for our eyes only, that's okay, but you have to let us know.
It's a good job we didn't share the pictures then.
No comment. Thankfully, we haven't received one of those emails in a long time. People have moved on to stalking other younger, hipper shows, and I'm fine with that.
Glad you are.
So again, that's ghoststoryguys@gmail.com if you want to send in your comments, your questions, your stories, of course. And like I said, if you don't want to read on the show, please say, don't read this part on the show. Just a heads up.
I ain't had a stalker for 10 years. It's been a while.
There, see?
Nice, actually.
There you
What
go.
it's like.
Someone can go stalk Paul. I'm going to go climb into Tim Renner's window. I was just listening to his show is why he's on my mind. Tim has done nothing wrong, to be clear. Tim seems cool. I just was listening to his show before I started recording.
So you've been concerned about them discovering that fossil of a dog-sized scorpion the other day.
What?
They found a prehistoric dog-sized scorpion skeleton the other day.
I don't like any of that. I don't like any of those words, especially when they're arranged in that order.
So Jason and the Argonauts is real.
Well, I'm glad we can send everyone out on a happy note. We were talking about the rats earlier, which is really, I'm sure, going to perk everyone up. And now this. So very cool.
Listen, I was forced to read the rats at 9. And so anybody older than that that's reading it and has trouble, then I'm sorry. I've no sympathy.
You heard it here first, folks. Paul has no sympathy for Bren. Our theme song, Radio, Into the Darkness We Go, is composed and performed by Peter Kursov of Pizzanta Music. Find more from him by searching for Pizzanta Music wherever you get your tunes. And I think that's going to do it.
We'll be back next week, but until then...
Into the darkness we go.
Come on, England!
I love that we live in an era where you have to be ready for your packages to arrive like a seagull scoring a piece of fish at a seaside shop. What a good system.
You've got to be quick.
Yep.
Over the centuries, it has had various usage. Over the centuries, it has had various usages. Oh, for fuck's sake. Over the century.
Don't buy shares.
Well, that's good. I'll call my guy.
There's about 5 reasons as to why they think it's called Leighton Buzzard, and none of them really add up. And none of them involve buzzards.
Okay.